Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRW, where nerds rule the world. Kuyupi and I are finally getting back into this whole review thing. We're gonna do this. We're gonna give you all the stuff we promised, and we're going to start. We're going to kind of start catching up. We already did with big, beautiful, bold journey, but we're now going to do it with something that Kuyupi and I have both been really excited about. John Candy, I Like Me. Let's start with the trailer because I know him and I are going to have lots of feels in this entire review.
I can't tell you what was right about John Candy or what was wrong, but he was my friend, and I don't want to cry, but when I see him,
right there is when I started to cry.
I mean,
I was good through this part. I was good through that part.
Who are you?
I'm a Mog. Half man, half dog.
Gus Polinski, Polka King of the Midwest.
Del Griffith, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
This is a lovable guy.
Like he was
This is a guy who, the minute you see his face,
and Dave Thomas,
you're going to smile. He was
Everyone, so many people.
Thank you.
He was one of the top performers out of all of them.
Guess my secret to acting would be I pretend real hard.
Even though John did distinctly different characters, John was always there.
He was so gentlemanly and so Canadian.
Nobody had bigger expectations for himself than John.
And then all of a sudden, it kind of jumped to a different level.
I've made winning my whole life. And when you make winning your whole life, you have to keep on winning.
You've been in more turkeys than a stuffing mix.
I think the weight of everything he was doing was just too much.
That was a good line.
Business is that
all
it's
the
very
stuff with the
unhealthy
people,
for
with the
people
interviewers,
pleasers.
just
can't really do favors for people.
I will never
Bottomless
do
cup of
something
coffee.
I promise
You go
myself to
a
never
whole
do that.
lifetime eating your feelings, drinking your feelings, smoking your nerves. It shows up.
You know, there's some things that are just painful. That's it. And you can't make them not painful.
Hollywood still reacting to the shocking news.
John Candy is dead at the age of 43.
But it's the face you put on the world that defines who you are.
He lived his life very much like the movies. He was the child that made everyone happy. And he was the adult that did that.
You know, I remember John caring when not a lot of people did.
Every time you go away,
This is no meager life we reflect on today.
you take a piece of
God, this is what got me.
Full of life
This is
as
what got
a
me.
woman can live.
Trailer about to fuck me up.
Hi, Jennifer. How you doing?
Magnificent of visage, eyes and frame. A titan of a gentle, golden man.
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me.
All right, there we go.
To say just to start off, Kuyupi and I had both had friends or people on the interwebs say that this documentary is going to make you cry. I was able to get through Bill Murray's opener. And I do want to talk about his opener. There's going to be some spoilage here. It's somebody's life. There's going to be spoilers, but you will see more of it in the documentary. But I will say, Dan Aykroyd comes in heavy. The documentary begins and ends with the funeral, and Dan Aykroyd was the one who gave the primary eulogy, and it broke me. 3.5 minutes into this documentary, and I was shattered. And Kuyupi is the crier of the two of us. And the fact that I shattered is actually a big sign. So with that being said, Kuyupi, what were your initial thoughts prior to watching this?
He's beloved, you know, he's an icon, he's a legend. He was just somebody that, again, these brilliant people that are taken from us far too soon, you know. And was a fan of his work. I know my wife was a big fan. We named our daughter because after a film he was in, Splash, because John Candy was one of her favorites along with Tom Hanks, Madison Avenue, so hence Madison. So he's just been a favorite of ours, and so I was very curious and interested in learning more about the man was John Candy, and so I was very interested in checking this out.
It's to make a notion on that. Tom Hanks' son, Colin Hanks, of course, was the director for this film. And of course, him and Ryan Reynolds. There are a lot of people that help produce this film, but when you have names like Ryan Reynolds, when you have Tom Hanks, when you have Steve Martin, when you have all these people putting ludicrous amounts of money into a documentary about a single person, I think it really says a lot. Just going into it, and with that, my thing is that there's very few people that you don't want to hear bad things about. There are very, very few people that you don't want to hear bad things about. And documentaries are usually where those moments are exposed. And John Candy is one of them. I don't think any of us wants to hear that John Candy was a bad guy, because everything he did, he seemed to do with whole heart. And honestly, that kind of was kind of freaked me out going into this. But what was so telling is something Bill Murray says right at the opener. I hope this exposes something bad, because I don't know anything. He gave one example of something silly, and that was, I was nervous about that. So just to say, I was nervous that one of the most beloved character actors from my childhood was going to be destroyed in this documentary. And I am thankful that he wasn't. So those were my initial thoughts. I know that kind of shifts into my review, but those were my initial thoughts. I was nervous. I was nervous going into this, because he is. If you do not, I say this a lot. If you do not like something, I don't trust you. If you do not like John Candy, I do not trust you, because that means you don't like good, wholehearted people. And that's just kind of it. With that, let's go right into our review. What are our thoughts? KAYFABEYBABY, go.
It was great. It was wonderful. I love that they pretty much got everybody that we've, as viewers from the outside that have watched his films, a lot of his collaborators, from 1941, from Splash, from just everything that everybody's worked with. Dan Aykroyd, the SCTV people, which he pretty much worked with them throughout his career, where he started, in Canada, booking that show. And then a lot of those amazingly talented people came over to the US and then kind of took over our industry and are like legends. But like those people carried out throughout his entire life in regards to his work. And it just, again, like you said, Heather, you don't want to hear bad things, but at the same time, if it happens, like Bill said, I kind of want to know at the same time. But again, it's a reflection of the man that he really didn't have anything that you could put a finger on, But to see his children, where they're at now, and how they were affected by him and their stories, it just solidified that he was one of the good humans that we had on this earth, and whose life was cut short. And also how we need to be mindful of things that we are responsible for, that we can, to help prolong ourselves on this earth. It's just he was a person that showed everything in his mannerisms, in his actions, in his face. As an actor, one of the things I always loved about John Candy is it's how you read in your actions, but like everything read on his face, and it was just amazing to see. You felt the love, you felt the affection, you felt everything. It all read, and he delivered it in his actions. That's why he is so beloved. I just appreciate this guy, and there's so many things to learn from him as an actor and as a performer, that I think we can see ourselves in him. We know people like him. I hope that we take those actions that we know of people that feel what they're feeling, that we can do better. One of the things that I pointed out during the trailer, there was interviews that John had with interviewers like myself, that those interviews are very evil and just very disrespectful in their tone and in their questions. And I hope that I personally don't ever make my interviewee feel that way that they made him feel. That was just terrible. And so just an amazing documentary. I think I'm going overboard, and Heather and I were just talking about this earlier. I can word vomit sometimes, but I just think he was a stupendous and amazing, brilliant person who I think we can all learn from, and I hope we can all do better for ourselves and for others through learning his story.
Absolutely. And just to feed right into that, it's I echo almost everything Kuyapi said. Almost every single thing. This documentary was well maintained, well researched. You have everyone from who a lot of people consider Dan Aykroyd and John Candy to be basically brothers. They were, two peas in a pod. But it did not center around just his early relationships. It talks through people who he didn't talk. So I Like Me, of course, is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one of his best movies, one of Steve Martin's best movies as well. And it is such a touching film. And John Candy's monologue has been resurfaced and reimagined. Definitely, by the way, stay through the credits all the way to the end. There might be an extra scene at the end, and they just talk about his monologue in this film. But Steve Martin actually came about very much later in John Candy's life. But he felt, it's almost like he knew him right off the bat. He knew everything about him, and you could feel it in the conversations that he had. That this documentary was about someone who touched people, who touched people's heart, who touched people's soul, and forever changed them. And that was something that was really, really well done in this documentary. You could just feel the love, you could feel the caring. There's a really great line from Conan O'Brien. It's "I met him once," or it's something like that. It's "I met him once. I was just the guy that picked him up from the airport, and it felt like I was with him all his life." It was something very similar to that. It's a very touching, heartwarming documentary, and it was done so carefully and so tenderly. You could feel it throughout the entire thing. And to that point, you could also tell that they made this for the fans to kind of break down. You heard Dan Aykroyd call him a titan, to break down this titan. There's great conversations about mental illness and about self-acceptance, about self-image. You can see that there are definitely times where Candy broke down in interviews where he was just like he was trolling the trolls, and you could tell that he was doing it in anger, not in politeness. He was doing it because he was genuinely tired of that conversation. And yes, I have said it. I was actually in a very recent interview where I was just in a weird state of mind, and a very sweet man, and I will call myself out if there's a bad question, if there's a stupid question. We all do it. It's usually not intentional. But it's definitely Goliaths in every version of the word, like John Candy, where you see the stupidity come out. And I think that they did the documentary did a really good definition or did a really good telling of what he experienced both internally and externally. This was a very gentle, familial conversation with the audience about a man who everybody loved. And one of the big things for me, I don't know about you, Kuya. I'm kind of hitting a reality check here in my personal life. Sorry to go a little bit personal here, but one of those things that they talk about a lot is how John Candy's father, who died at 35, really impacted him. He was 47 when he passed away, and we're all learning. We're all doing better. My family has a very short lifespan, considerably, and I was talking to my father recently. Other things aside, go watch my interview about coding and RNA, and you'll see see what's going on there. But that aside, you have those conversations with your parents about, when someone died, when you think you might die. And this was just a very honest look at a man who was terrified, who was semi-terrified of death and his end. And you hearing from his son was really important. Those are really my thoughts. This was just a very tender documentary, and it's 100% worth your time, especially in today's atmosphere. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you are on. Having something heartwarming is good for you. Just to say. But with that, Kuya P, final thoughts.
If you're a fan of John Candy, you will love this documentary. If you're not a fan of John Candy, you will become aware of somebody that bared his soul that showed and gave everything that he had, and just tried to not only be the realest person he could be, but also try to help you and improve upon you, and just do. Well, I wouldn't say he showed his soul, but he would be the best of friend to you to help you with whatever you chose to do. He wouldn't impose himself or anything like that, and that's what I was trying to fix my words right. But he would help you do better because he would believe in you just as much as he needed help to help him believe in himself. Because there was a lot of times where he didn't believe in himself. So, he would just give of himself, so that way the two of you could work together for us to just coexist and do the best that we could as a society. I'm getting mixed in my words, but yeah, I just think he was a great human being, and he will be missed by many, but he's an inspiration to all. If you live your life in that fashion, and I try to do the best I can to live my life in that fashion.
Absolutely. So my final thoughts, actually, that was something I wanted to mention before. It's one of the really cool things about this documentary is it does kind of bring to light his filmography. Most people know him for Spaceballs. Most people know him for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But one of his best roles of all time was in Platoon. It was in Splash. Like, a lot of people don't remember Tom Hanks's early work, or they just remember Hanks from Splash. No, John Candy gave one of his best performances of his life in that film. And that's one of the things that the documentary really does well, is it talks about his experience in the industry, not just him as a funny guy. And that's so much more important than just saying that he's a comedian. He was a great actor. And with that, my final words are the documentary comes out on October 10th on Prime Video. Watch it. Add it to your watch list. We talk about a lot of documentaries. This is probably in my top 3 this year. Katrina kind of hits above it for reasons, but other than that, like, this is a top 3 documentary for me. So definitely check it out. Once again, John Candy, I Like Me arrives on Prime Video on October 10th. Definitely check it out. If by the time you watch this, if you have already seen it, make comments below. If you haven't seen it yet, tell us your favorite John Candy movie. Tell us your favorite line. And I Like Me is cheating, by the way. That's cheating. Tell us a line that's not in this monologue. With that, like, subscribe, share, all those things, and we will talk to y'all soon.